Welcome everyone for the Raising Special Kids Here with Families, Here for Families weekly Facebook Live series. I am so excited to jump into the topic for today, but first I want to give you an RSK update. My name is Brittany Miller and I'm a family support specialist with Raising Special Kids. And I have my colleague here, Kathy Gray Mangerson, and we're going to be talking about special education today. But first, welcome for those just jumping on. You see that notification in your Facebook newsfeed. I'm glad you're here to join us. I will be watching the chat. So if you have a question or a comment, or you just want to say hi, please jump on. We love having interactive Facebook Live sessions with our community. So thank you again for joining. Again, this is the Here with Families, Here for Families Facebook Live. And I'm excited to be here again this week. Just a little bit of an RSK update. We have been busy helping families. As you can imagine, our phones are starting to ring off the hook a little bit with school back in session and helping parents navigate how to communicate with their children's special education teams and questions about online learning. And our family support team, we've all been really busy and happily helping families as they're going through this time. And we know it can be stressful. You know, we're in the trenches and doing it with our own children. So we're just really here to support our community. So thank you again for those calling us. We're here for you and we want to help. Raising Special Kids also had a neat opportunity. Our executive director, Mr. Christopher Tiffany, he recently did a webinar called An Inside Look at Raising Special Kids with attorney Jennifer Kubachevsky of the Kyle and Kubachevsky law firm. And it's really neat. You guys, please check out our social media. I'm going to be sharing it a few times in our news feeds. It's already posted and it also lives on our website. So if you've been wondering a little bit more about what exactly Raising Special Kids does, because we have a lot of different array of services, we do trainings, we're really involved in some of the meetings with our stakeholders trying to improve services for families. So in this webinar, Mr. Tiffany really just goes over what we do, why we do it, and it'd be great for you guys to check it out. So please look for that. It's called An Inside Look at Raising Special Kids. And again, it's on our website and on our Facebook feed. Let's see, we also did a speaker series this week with a gentleman from Social Security. So thank you again for those that joined us. If you have questions about SSI, please call our office. We can help with that too. I'm just going to go ahead and announce our direct number is 602-242-4366. Mark that down. And if you have questions regarding SSI or special education and really anything disability related, we can help and we're happy to support you. So thank you. I'm already seeing people jumping on and saying hello. I'm going to just go ahead and get started on our topic for today. I know Kathy and I are really excited to come together and share some information and answer some questions that we've been hearing a lot, especially this week. So first of all, Kathy, thank you for joining us. I'm going to do a little intro. I know I'm not going to do you justice because you have extensive experience and you're a wonderful person and friend. But Kathy is our Systems Administrator of Education. Did I give you your title right?
Close enough.
Okay. So she has been with Raising Special Kids for a long time and has a special expertise in the area of special education. So she is in many committees and is in direct contact with our Department of Education to provide the information we need back to our family support team. And she leads us in teaching us what we need to know and helping us understand the processes and the guidelines that our Department of Ed has put in place so that we can better support our community. So thank you, Kathy, for joining us. I'm really excited that you're here today, and I'm excited to learn from you too.
Happy to be here. Thanks for asking me.
You're welcome. So again, I see the chat kind of float up a little bit. I am going to watch it. So I'm going to jump into our questions, Kathy, but I am going to watch the chat.
Okay.
So if there's a question we have time for, I will definitely ask it to you. And then just know that our family support team, if we don't have time during this broadcast, we will certainly get you in touch with us so we can help families with their individual concerns. So I have compiled a list of questions that our team has been hearing a lot lately. And I just want to say before we begin, so we are going to be sharing direct guidance that we've received from the Department of Education, like a big picture look. So we're going to be talking about topics that are, families want answers to, and providing the information as a whole for our Arizona community. But if you have specific questions about your child's IEP, your individual concerns, that would be appropriate for you to call us directly. Our Raising Special Kids team, we will help you. So just remember, we're going to be tackling some important topics and giving some great information. But if you have really specific, nitty-gritty questions, that would be something where we'd hope you would call our office so we can help you, and also contact your local school district to see how they're implementing the policies. So without further ado, I will jump into our first question for you, Kathy. So we have heard that the governor has approved on-site services for students starting next week, so this coming Monday. What exactly does this mean?
Very good question, very timely as well. So, in the governor's executive order, and one of his many executive orders, he has required every public district or charter in the state to provide on-site supports and services. So that's what they're calling it, on-site supports and services, starting Monday. Now, it's only for 5 or 6 groups of children. So it is not, the school will be open, but not every child can walk through the front door. So think of it as a safe place for these children who have no other place to go. That's why school is opening. So it's for children who are homeless and truly don't have a place to go, for children who have no internet at home, so they could not do distance learning, for children who are in group homes with DCS custody, for children who are English language learners, so English may not be their first language, for children with free and reduced lunch who might need the food options. And one of the categories that he put in his order were students with disabilities. So this is going to look different at every single school. And if you are watching us live and you are a parent with a child with an IEP and you have not heard from your district or charter how this is going to work starting Monday, as soon as we're done here, pick up the phone and call your district or charter, because they should have already made contact with you and you should know how it's going to look at your district or charter. So I'm going to give you a common example that might happen next week that I've heard a number of districts are doing, but it could be completely different. And the district or charter is not even required to do it on their campus. They could pair up with the Boys and Girls Club and hold it there, or with a daycare center or something like that. So it doesn't have to be every school on their campus. It doesn't even have to be on their campus. So it's not going to be 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. A lot of them are doing 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. So it's going to be a part-time solution. The children will be socially distant. So let's say there's a classroom that used to hold 20 children that might only hold 8 or 10 right now. They'll all have masks on, but literally they're going to walk into a classroom. Now remember, there will be no teachers on campus. All the teachers are sitting at home in front of their computer giving distance learning information and teaching to the kids that are sitting at their kitchen table. So the children who will be on campus, who will have a computer in front of them, are exactly like the kids that will be sitting at their kitchen table, and the teacher will be teaching to both groups. So the adults that will be on the campus next week will be paraprofessionals, will be lunch staff, will be people like that. Okay, the certified teachers will not be there next week. So this on-site services is not going to look like school looked before COVID. It's not going to have self-contained classrooms and my child's going to be isolated with a special ed teacher and parapros. It's not going to look anything like that. So remember, the purpose of this is to give children who have no place to go a safe place to go, which is school. And then they'll figure out the academic part, but they won't even be providing in that setting what the specially designed instruction on the child's IEP. So the child may get OTPT and speech. They may pull the child out, take them to the speech language pathologist's office, do speech there, and bring them back. But it's going to look very different. And if you remember, the purpose is for children who need a safe place to go during the day, you're going to be fine. Now, even though children with disabilities are included in this group, do I have as a parent of a child with an IEP who's currently doing distance learning at my kitchen table, do I have to send my child? No. In most cases, no. But everybody is setting it differently. And that's why your district should have told you what it's going to look like, and then told you also what they thought would be the best option for your child, which may not be on-site services. Okay. So on-site services will start physically on Monday, only for those groups of children that I talked about. The district and charters are also actively working on when are they going to open physically for all children. Okay.
Right.
And that will be something they will share with you when they've made that decision. We have heard that there are some districts that will be open for every child starting Monday, the 17th, which means they won't do on-site services. They will just open it for every child. But every district is probably going to do something else. So you just have to pay attention to when your district is going to do that. Last week, the Arizona Department of Health Services released a 20-page document, it's on their website, with many benchmarks about when would it be safe to open school physically. So for schools, those benchmarks are options. They do not have to meet the benchmarks to be open physically. All right. And as of last week, and it's updated weekly, and I haven't looked today, but as of last week, there was no county in the state where the benchmarks were met. Okay. I know that there are some districts that are waiting until they meet the benchmarks in their city before they reopen, and some are not. But just know that those health benchmarks are optional for schools.
Thank you for
Um,
clarifying that point, Kathy, because
no problem.
there's been a lot of miscommunication I've seen, just in
Mhm.
my own social media, special needs mom local groups about the benchmarks. And if you guys want to look at those, they are on our Raising Special Kids
Thank you.
Facebook page. And that is good to know, because I don't believe that families may know that that's optional. And so there is this confusion, why is this neighboring school district opening and we're not? But can you, on that note, can you explain just briefly what the local control, what that means?
Sure, that in Arizona, we're very much about local control, which means that every district or charter, they all have governing boards. And the governing board makes all the appropriate decisions. So very quickly, we have the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that is in 50 states. Then we have Arizona revised statutes. So Arizona can add to the federal law, but they can't take away from it. And then the district can add a little bit. And so if you have discipline issues or things like that, the district deals with that. But when it comes to the actual physical first day of school, whether it's distance learning or physically, the governing board makes that decision. So it's
Okay.
up to the governing board of each district and charter to set that they already set a date for, we're calling it distance learning. Learning
Right.
through the computer, we're calling it distance learning. Many districts started 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, last week, this week, and next week. That's the first day of school, distance learning. And then there'll be a different day of school for physically opening. And you may not have heard yet from your district or charter. They may not have made that decision yet. And I know, for example, one district working with a parent on, they sent a letter that said, we're going to evaluate it every month. So you'll hear from us at the end of September, and then we'll decide what are we going to do then. And maybe if we're not where we want to be, we'll go to the end of October. So everybody is doing something different, and you really need to, they have to post all this information on their district website. So you need to go to the district website and it should all be there. And then if you have questions, call them directly.
Thank you. And thank you for clarifying the on-site learning,
Sure.
because that was a really good, black and white answer. So now we understand, the groups of children that might be eligible. And so I would just like to reemphasize what Kathy said. If you haven't heard from your district, call them as soon as you hang up, or as soon as you jump off of this Facebook Live, so you can figure out the plans for your child. And really, in all of this, we just want to emphasize that families, you need to communicate with your school team, because like Kathy said, our districts do have some governing power in planning and implementing the policies and procedures for their district. And so you really need to stay up to date, go to their website, watch your emails, and if things aren't going well, communicate with the team. So thank you. That was a really good way to describe it. And I know a lot of our families, I'm sure, understand it much better now.
And I
So let's,
couldn't emphasize the communicate enough.
yeah,
Communicate, communicate, communicate in whatever form is necessary.
for sure. So let's move on. So families have called us a lot lately with questions surrounding the term compensatory ed or compensatory education. Kathy, would you mind explaining that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Um, so, compensatory education is the way it's referred to in the law, but because that often has negative connotations, there are some districts calling it COVID recovery services. Doesn't really matter what they call it.
Okay.
It all works the same. So, think back to when COVID hit us all in the United States and every district and charter in the country closed, and all students were doing distance learning. So, for the months in Arizona, for the months of April and May, think back and hopefully you have some documentation and that kind of thing. But while your child was doing distance learning in April and May, the child was entitled to free, appropriate public education. What does that mean? We could have a 5-hour discussion on what FAPE means, but free, appropriate public education. If you do not feel that your child received free, appropriate public education in April and May of 2020, then now that if school has restarted for you, now is the time to talk to the teacher and the IEP team about your child might possibly be eligible for compensatory education. The purpose of compensatory education is to put the student's learning back to where it would have been before school closed because of COVID. That's the purpose. And it is not, in this situation, it is not a failure of the school at all. It's, if you're going to blame something, blame COVID, right?
Right.
No schools in the United States did anything wrong. It was what they had to do. And this is the year, if we haven't figured that out yet in 2020, that this is the year that we're going to have balance between safety and academics. And it's going to go up and down, right?
Very
Depending on
true.
what's going on. And I'll talk more about that later. But if you believe that your child did not get free, appropriate public education in April and May of 2020, then start talking to your team about, I believe my child should be eligible for compensatory education. A couple of important points. It is not a minute for minute replacement. So I'm going to give an example because we all learn best with examples.
Thank you.
Let's say I have a child with an IEP who gets an hour of speech services a week. So that would have been 4 weeks in April, 4 weeks in May. That would have been 8 hours of speech they didn't get for many reasons. When I ask for compensatory education in speech for my child, the school is not required to give me 8 hours. It is not a minute for minute replacement. Now, what will the comp ed look like? Who knows? Completely customized per district, right? It could be before school. It could be after school. It could be on the weekends. It could be at night. It could be given by a private company. It could be whatever. But the discussion has to start, and not every child with an IEP is eligible for compensatory education. It's individualized, just like everything else in their IEP, for child by child by child. And if you'd called us in the spring, one of the things we would have said to you is please document everything. So all that documentation that you have, you need to share with school, and they need to take your input and consider your input when they're making the decision of what compensatory services ought to look like. Okay. So I can't tell you what it would look like because it can be any different options. But basically, if you don't think that your child had FAPE in April or May, now you want to start talking to the team about, is my child eligible for compensatory education? And if the team decides yes, then what does it look like?
Kathy, would that same concept apply, this month, say, August, September, the parent feels like their child didn't receive FAPE and maybe it's a conversation after they've given, online learning, distance learning a shot. Would that same concept apply, collect some data at home, take your notes, share it with the school team, and then possibly have the conversation surrounding providing your child, the child that needs it comp ed? Is that a similar guidance you would give?
Absolutely. Right now, they're trying to think comp ed that was due in the spring. But
Okay.
maybe after October, after the first quarter, November, December, maybe January after the first semester, then if we didn't feel that our child maybe got compensatory education in August, September, and October, we could talk about them there. So it's always a looking back on what happened. And right now we're focused on the spring. And then I would say probably by October, then we'll focus on what's been happening this school year. So the 2020-2021 school year. But same thing, please take documentation, whether you do it on a calendar or in a log or whatever, but take lots of documentation and have conversations early with your team that, gee, I don't think that my child is getting free, appropriate public education.
Thank you. And I heard another tip from a family that the mom was, videoing their child doing some work. And now
Oh,
our phones are so handy that could be a way. And
that's a great idea. That's
yeah,
documenting, right?
yep,
And that's probably a lot easier than writing it down, right? Look, see how the child's not paying attention? That's a great idea.
perfect. Well, thank you for defining that. I know that's been, kind of a hot topic lately in our communities on what that means and how you ask for that. And so really, we would encourage you to call us if you have individual questions, but please communicate with your school teams
And
because go
you
ahead.
don't have to hold an IEP meeting to discuss comp ed. It could be
Oh,
very
okay.
informal, and you could say to your teacher, look, I think we need to start this discussion. You might also find, because the Arizona Department of Education Exceptional Student Services has already created a custom letter for districts to use, and you
Okay.
may find that the district is just saying, these kids, we're giving comp ed, here's our offer. And then that would be the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. So would I talk about it the first day of school? No. I would give school a chance, but talk about it, after you've been in for a couple of weeks and something like that.
Perfect. Thank you. I am watching the chat, and one of the questions I think you answered, but
Okay.
a mother commented, Angela, she asked, let me just see here. So she is wondering, and we, disclaimer, we're not special education attorneys, so I'm just putting that out there, but she asked about if we receive guidance from the Department of Ed or Governor Ducey, does that supersede, the IDEA and FAPE and LRE?
Oh, good question. No. Okay.
Okay.
So the law's been around. I think this is the question. The
Yeah,
law's been around. IDA has been around since 1975, or 45 years. And in 45 years of interpretation until 2020, we never had to worry about what the governor was saying. But
sure.
because we are in a national emergency, a national pandemic, and the governor is in charge of the citizens of Arizona and keeping us safe, we now have to pay attention to what the governor is saying and put that in. So this on-site supports and services we were just talking about, there's nothing like that in IDA, but that was something the governor put in an executive order that he is now requiring schools to do for safety reasons, which he's allowed to do legally. So now we have to incorporate that too. So thank you for asking that question, because this has been my life since March, and I feel I haven't paid attention to anything else but special education. And I know that the Arizona Department of Education feels the same way, but we have to pay attention to what the governor is saying when it relates to school, because nothing in IDA has changed, none of the timelines. He doesn't trump anything, but when he puts in something like when he closed schools physically in March, he's allowed to do that. That's never happened anywhere in the United States. So then we all have to figure out what the next thing is. And so I'm going to give this advice at the end, but I'm going to give it now, that this is going to be a year that nobody has ever anticipated. And everybody, including you, is doing the best job that you can. So whatever patience you can bring to the table to help school try to figure out what's good for your son, the better off it's going, or your son or daughter, the better off it's going to be for all children everywhere.
Thank you for saying that, because we sense the frustration, you and I
Yes.
both, and the rest of our team, we're getting
Me
calls.
too. I have it.
Yeah, and I have kids in the other room doing distance learning right now, so I get it. And we're just really trying to encourage families to communicate, take a deep breath and just try and be patient, but try and work with your school team, because this is a national crisis and we have never had a pandemic that we've had to deal with like this before in our lifetime. And so we're just all going to have to really work together to get through. And if compensatory ed has to happen to help our kids catch up, we know that that's an option. So thank you for bringing that up, Kathy. You've been getting some Facebook love a little bit. A lot of parents are saying, thank you so much. This is really helpful and informative.
Good.
One of the, Kelly, you mentioned you're interested in having Kathy present. Please contact us, because raising special kids, we do, have trainings in our community. And so call our office and I'm sure we can talk more about that. And yes,
And
I
I'm going
love
to talk about
Kristen.
that in a minute. So,
Oh, good. Yeah. And I love Kristen said, give grace to the schools. Yeah. Amen to that one.
please, please.
And let's see here. I was going to bring up one more question and then we can move on. This is Katrina. Your question is kind of individual, but we may want to touch on it just briefly. She says, what if we change districts between the end of the school year to the new school year? And the
Oh, good.
previous district did not provide services. So how would Comp Ed work there?
You have to go back to the previous district and talk to them about providing comp services now, because they were the ones who didn't provide free appropriate public education. So she has to have her comp ed conversation with the old district.
Perfect. And Kristen, please call us. We'll help you. And actually, I'm sorry, that was Katrina. Call our office and we'll walk you through that process. But thank you, Kathy, for answering that.
You're welcome.
So I'm watching. Everyone's really loving your advice. So let's keep going. This is a good caveat into our next topic because it talks about evaluations, which we know are part of IDEA. So let's talk about evaluations for a child who is not currently in special education right now or not receiving services. How does a parent request their child to be evaluated for special education services, and what does that look like, and has it changed at all during COVID?
Yes. So last spring, for many reasons, and I don't need to get into reasons, evaluations were, ADE is using the term paused. So I'm using that term. So
Okay.
they were paused. So if your child was in the middle of the evaluation, that stuff should start up again as soon as the school starts back distance learning. All right. So there's like 6 questions here, but
Right.
that's for someone who was in the middle of the evaluation.
Right.
If the question you asked that I want to answer is, my child is struggling in school or has been struggling in school, I think they might be eligible for special education. So very quickly, how you become eligible for special ed. So in a traditional K-12 district, about 10 to 15% of children are in special education or have IEP. So it's a very small percentage. And there are 3 criteria. One, you have to meet one of the Arizona definitions for special education. In preschool, we have 5 categories. K-12, we have 13. You have to meet the definition. You have to need specially designed instruction. And so it could be OTPT speech, could be a million different things. And the disability. Sorry, I accidentally hit the keyboard and muted myself.
No
The
problem.
disability has to adversely affect your child academically. So if you have those 3 things, then in writing, either in an email, in a letter, we have a sample letter we could send you, whatever, in writing, you're going to ask the school, I'd like you to formally evaluate my child for special education. Here are my issues, blah, 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 blah. Recommend you also send that to whoever is the special ed person at the school. Don't send it to the receptionist or the principal. Send it to whoever is the special ed person at the school. Then school's responsibility is they receive that written documentation from you, the written request. They receive it from you. They have 15 school days or 3 weeks to get back to you in writing. And they're going to tell you one of 2 things. So there are 2 different paths. I'm going to go down both paths. So let's say they get back to you and they say, we agree with you. We are going to start the evaluation process for your child. So they will then have you sign some forms, and they have 60 days to evaluate the child in every area of suspected disability, and then hold a meeting to tell you if the child is eligible. Just because the child is evaluated for special ed does not mean they're eligible. Okay.
Right.
So let's say they're evaluated, you have the meeting, they say they're eligible, the district or charter could take an additional 30 days to put together an IEP. All right. So that's the process. If yes, eligible all the way down. Now, let's say they get back to you within 15 days and they say, no, we are not going to evaluate your child with special education. Just because you asked does not mean they will do it. They will probably do something like Let's hold a review of data meeting. Let's try response to intervention techniques or multi-tiered systems and support techniques to work with the child. And if that doesn't work for, 3 months or so, then maybe we'll look at special ed evaluation then. So that's yes and no to evaluate a child. And the timelines are all in place. So those timelines I talked about, you write the letter, they get back to you within 15 days. That started from the day they get your letter. They have 15 days to get back to you. And then if they agree to evaluate, they have another 60 days to do that, hold a meeting to determine eligibility. If the child's eligible, they could take, they don't have to, another 30 days to put together an IEP. So those timelines are in place now, whereas this spring, those timelines were paused. So that's why evaluations were not finished that need to be finished now.
Thank you, Kathy. That was really helpful. And so now, this school year, 20 to 21, the first day of school is even if it's distance learning, that is the first day. The virtual first day of
Okay,
school counts.
but remember, the whole thing starts once they get the written request from you. So
Right,
if you don't send them a written request till the end of August, then it
right.
wasn't the first day of school. Okay. It was, the last week of August or whatever it might be in that date. But the point I'm trying to make is in the spring, all right, we paused everything, which means evaluations did not have to be finished. It's complicated and I don't want to get into it here.
Sure.
But now, this fall, they cannot be paused. So if
Okay.
you ask, the process has to go through whichever way it's going to go through, whether they say no and they do multi-tier systems and supports, whether they say yes and then they go that route.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah, that
oh,
defined it. I think there was, well, I know there's been some confusion over, the April, May time period where they were paused.
yes,
But then now
yes.
we know whether you're online or your brick and mortar school is in session, whatever your district starts, and you are able to request in writing, like Kathy said, um, for your child to be evaluated. And if you need, specific help or have questions, again, call us, we can walk you through. And we do have sample letters, like Kathy mentioned, that were really helpful. So you can draft your email to the team.
And if you have a child with an IEP and you want to learn about the special ed eligibility process and everything to know about IEPs, we give a free IEP workshop. And I can tell you we have our next one next Thursday on August the 20th, and then the one after that on September the 19th. They're free. You just have to go to raisingspecialkids.org, go under events and training, go to register for an online workshop, put in the month, and then the IEP workshop will show up. And if that date and time works for you virtually, just click on it, fill in your information, and you're good to go. So that is a great way in 2 hours that we can really explain to you how your child became eligible for special ed and all the parts of the IEP. And we spend more time talking about FAPE and lots of other special ed terms.
Thank you, Kathy. I always tell parents, when you're informed, you're empowered. So thank you for reminding us about that training. And yeah, check out our website. And we do this one often, and I would highly
At
recommend
least
parents
monthly.
take it. Yeah, thank you. So let's jump to the next question. Okay, so we're hearing this quite a bit, quite honestly. If a child has an IEP and they're struggling right now with distance learning, what steps could a parent take?
These are the steps that I would have always told you to take, whether we were in traditional school, brick and mortar, or now. And that is first, you have to give it a chance. Your child has to get in the new routine. The teacher has to get in the new routine. You have to get in the new routine. So I'm using a month time frame. That may be too little or too much, but
Okay.
please try to give this whole thing some time to settle in. And then when it settles in and you do not feel that your child is getting free appropriate public education out of it, then do what we always recommend that you do. You start talking with the teacher. If the teacher can help you, then you go up what I call the informal chain of command, and you just keep going and talk to people that can help you with whatever this issue is. Also, tons of documentation, whether it's video, whether it's written, doesn't make any difference what form it's in, but make sure you do that. And try to be super specific now, because the teacher's not in that same room with the child. They don't know if they're struggling with, they can't log on. Is that the issue? Is it they can't pay attention? Is it because they can't do the homework? Be really, really specific about what it is versus it's not working. That doesn't help me. but it's like I can get the kid logged on, but they don't understand or they don't know where to click the buttons or something, because there's also part of the IEP, there's a section of the IEP called parent counseling and training. And we have some information on this on our website. And so if you, the parent, need help with the platform, they're not going to do Facebook Live in the classroom. But
Like
if it's Google
Zoom or,
Meets or it's
yeah.
Zoom or it's Microsoft Teams or whatever it might be, but you've not used that software and you're not comfortable with it, you can ask for somebody to train you on the software itself. Or if you're not sure where to click on the screen, you can do that. No teacher expects you to be the teacher. So it's been a long time since I've done high school algebra. And if somebody asked me to do high school algebra now, I think my child would fail, right? So no one expects you to be the teacher, but you can ask for help on the things you might need help on when it goes to distance learning. So I talked to a mom last week who's got a child who online is doing general education English and resource English, right? And getting homework in both. And he does the resource English homework, but he doesn't understand the general ed homework. And that's a scheduling issue. That's somebody who wasn't thinking about that. Why should that kid be doing two different Englishes? So it was real simple for that mom to say to the special ed teacher, hey, he's not going to do that one. Please communicate that to the gen ed teacher. And it was done. So there's going to be lots of little stuff like that. Bring your patients, document in writing what's going on, and be super, super specific. You can always call an IEP meeting if you think that's what it's going to take. You can always do that. On our website, we also have a COVID-19 page. And on that COVID-19 page, there's a section for education. And there are hundreds of documents about distance learning and everything to do with education in COVID. And one more place I'd recommend that you get ideas is 2 weeks ago on Facebook Live, Brittany interviewed a parent who's a special ed teacher in an online school, meaning that school has never been brick and mortar. They've always only been online. So not only is she a special ed teacher in an online school, most of her children have gone to online schools. So she had tons of great suggestions. And that, I know that was July 31st. I know that you can access it on Racing Special Kids YouTube page, but Brittany could probably explain exactly else where it lives. But that was a great Facebook Live to look at with tons of suggestions about distance learning.
Thank you. And if you're interested in viewing that, it's on our website. We have a video library. It's on our YouTube page, and it's also lives on Facebook. And it's the online learning here with families, here for families with Elizabeth Bird. But yes, she had some valuable information and suggestions. So we definitely would encourage you to reach out. And it sounds like, Kathy, a lot of the suggestions you give are what you would give to a parent, even not in COVID times, if their kid is struggling. So go back to the basics. Remember, communicate with your team, call an IEP meeting, and call us if you need help walking through those steps. So I did have a question pop up, Kathy, that I think is a good one. And Carrie, definitely reach out to us. It sounds like you might benefit from one of our family support specialists to call you. But she had a question back about the on-site support services.
Okay.
So she says, for the on-site support services for kiddos with disabilities, can the school provide a one-on-one aid for them if they are otherwise unable to engage in virtual learning?
That's an individual decision that she has to talk to her district about. There is no generic answer for that.
I figured, and this is a good point. A lot of these situations, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but you need to communicate with your team and let them know what's going on. And again, Carrie, please call us because we can, hear more about your kiddo, help you come up with strategies and ways to communicate with the school, and we'd be happy to help you with that. So thank you for answering that question. And in our page right now, Kathy mentioned the COVID education resources. It's now in the comments. Definitely look at it. There's so many valuable tips, resources, direct literature from our state agencies on special education guidelines. And if you don't follow it yet, please go to our Arizona Department of Education Exceptional Student Services page. They have special education guidance for COVID. And it is for directors, but it's public information. Families can hop on. And there's a section when you go down to the bottom of the page that has Q&As, and it's super helpful. And the nice thing about it, Kathy, I'm sure you like it too, is they date it. So they'll say, the date that this guidance was given. And I find as a mom and as a family support specialist, that resource page is so valuable because you have the date on when that guideline was updated, and then you can inform yourself when you're in turn communicating with your kiddo's school. So check that out for sure. Okay, this is a really good question. I've heard a lot, so I want to make sure we get to it, Kathy. So we've had a lot of questions and concerns about the difference between homeschooling and homebound services. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
You bet. I will start with the homeschooling first. So, homeschooling is when you withdraw your child from the district or charter they are currently going to, the public school they are going to. You withdraw them. Then you go to the school superintendent website for your county.
Okay.
So, I happen to live in Tucson in Pima County. I would go to the Pima County School Superintendent's website. On their website, they have a homeschooling section. In that section will be a document called the homeschooling affidavit. So
Mhm.
I will fill out the affidavit. I will give them the information they need, like a birth certificate and things like that, whatever it says they need. Then I will take all that information and I will upload it to them. And then, as far as the state of Arizona is concerned, my child is homeschooling and I'm in charge of what I do. Okay. I could set them in front of a TV for 8 hours. I could buy a curriculum and go through that. I could do any number of things. But in the state of Arizona, homeschooling, if done the way I explained, is considered private school. And we have a law in Arizona that any child between the ages of 6 and 16 has to be registered somewhere. Your child is registered, if you will, in the private school of homeschooling. If
Okay.
any time in the future you want to send your child, so past COVID, right? When brick and mortars really open again, in the future, if you want to send your child back to your district, then you just withdraw your affidavit from your school's county school superintendent's office. You enroll the child in the district you live within the boundaries of, and you're all set to go. But
Okay.
this is an option for you now. But children who are homeschooled, it's considered private school in the state of Arizona, and you withdraw them from the public school that they're in now. So that's homeschooling. Okay.
Okay.
Homebound. Homebound. I'm going to actually read you part of the definition because it's easier to explain it that way. But homebound means that the child is still enrolled in the district, but it means a pupil who is capable of profiting from academic instruction, but is unable to attend school due to illness, disease, accident, or other health conditions, who has been examined by a competent medical doctor and who the doctor certified the child is unable to attend regular classes for a period of not less than 3 school months. So homebound is for every child in school. So for example, if we have a child who's not a child with a disability, but all of a sudden they get cancer and they're going through chemo and they're too ill to go to school, and obviously the doctor will sign off on that, then not only are they too ill to go to school, but the doctor is saying out of the 9 months that school exists, this child cannot participate for a third of that, for 3 of those 9 months. And because they're just too ill pre-COVID to physically go to a school. And then what school's responsibility is pre-COVID was they sent a teacher into the school for just 4 hours a week. Because if this is truly a child who is too ill to attend school, they can't do 30 hours of school in their home. They don't have that kind of stamina and that kind of thing. I know now a lot homebound services are virtual and that type of thing, but homebound, in order for a child to be put into homebound, a medical doctor that the child goes to has to certify that the child cannot attend school for 3 out of 9 months. And then if that's the case, the parents give all that documentation to school, then they'll figure out what homebound looks like for that child.
Okay. And Kathy, homebound, that is a placement change. Is that correct? Or
Yes,
no?
it's
Okay.
decided by the IEP team, but it's really decided by the doctor. If the
Okay.
doctor provides all that information, then the team will get together and says it looks like the best placement for Johnny right now is Homebound. Homebound is not usually run by the special ed department because, again,
Okay.
there are many children in Homebound who are not special ed students. They're in that because they're too ill, and but that is, it would be a placement choice, and then that child would be on homebound services. And then if they got better, right,
Mhm.
like cancer went away after chemo, then that child could come off a homebound and go back to school if it's open, and that kind of thing.
Thank you for clarifying that because honestly, I feel like just noticing in the community since I do our social media, that those words sometimes are used
Oh,
interchangeably, but they mean very different things.
very different things.
And this actually, one of the moms on here is asking about ESA, which I know you're going to talk about. So good timing, Angela, because that is
Okay.
something else Kathy was going to share with us.
So ESA stands for Empowerment Scholarship Account, which is administered by the Arizona Department of Education. I'm going to go very briefly into it, but basically, you apply, then if you get it, and then if you accept it, then you withdraw your child from public school, and then you can use ESA funds for a number of things. Most parents use it to pay for tuition in private schools. Some parents use it to bring therapists and or tutors into their home, or
Right.
to send the child to a tutoring place, that kind of thing. So you can spend it on a bunch of things. There's a 60-page handbook on the Arizona Department of Education website that you're welcome to read that has all this. But basically, ESA, and there are 9 categories of children that qualify for ESA, and I'm only going to discuss the category of children with a disability, but there are
Okay.
9 other categories. Okay. So a child with a disability, preschool or preschool, kindergarten, or first grade through 12th grade. Okay. Preschool, everybody, no matter which grade, everybody has to have a current IEP or a current MET, multidisciplinary evaluation team, which is the evaluation report. You have to have a current one with, in the last year or so. Um, Preschool to kindergarten, you do not need to worry about the 100-day requirement. What is that? If you're in first grade through 12th grade, the most important thing, you have to be also an Arizona citizen, all that kind of stuff, but is the 100-day requirement. So what does that mean? So let's say this school year, 2020, 2021. Okay. I want to apply for empowerment scholarship for my child with an IEP, and I have a current IEP. Okay. Last school year, 2019, 2020, my child had to be in a public school for the first 100 days, not any 100 days, from the first day of school through the first 100 days. So we'll say August 1st through, sometime in October. So last year, if my child was in a public school for the first 100 days, and I have a current IEP, then, and I'm an Arizona citizen, et cetera, and I have an Arizona IEP, not an IEP from out of state, but I have an Arizona IEP, then I can apply to the Arizona Department of Education. I fill out the application, all that kind of stuff. They have deadlines. The next deadline to apply is November 1st. So you have to get your information in by then. If they approve you, then you'll get money starting January 2021. So you can apply every quarter. Then, so let's say I do that. Let's say I apply now, right? I get approved. So January 2020, I'm going to withdraw my child from the public school that they're in now, and then I'm going to decide where I'm going to send them. But the empowerment scholarship is also considered private school in the state of Arizona. And there are things you can and cannot spend the money on. And if they find you spent the money on something you can't, then they'll take all of it away from you. And
Right.
the other thing you have to do is every quarter, you have to account for every penny. You have to fill out a report and account for every penny that you've spent. But empowerment scholarship is considered private school in the state of Arizona. You cannot have empowerment scholarship and be enrolled in public school. It's one or the other. And the reason for that is what what you're getting through the empowerment scholarship is 90% of the money that the school district would have gotten in your child's primary category for them if they were enrolled in the public school. And I think that's enough about ESA. That's how it works. It's all listed on the Arizona Department of Education website. You can go there, you can call us, but it is one more option. So there's ESA, there's homeschooling, and there's homebound. And please make sure you really have those definitions you really understand what those mean and what you're asking for.
Thank you, Kathy. That was so informative. And please call us. Like she said, if you have questions, we can help with each of those scenarios and help you best figure out what you need to do for your child's individual needs. So this has been so great. I've learned so much from you. I always do. And I know our viewers listening in as well. I want to finish up with a final question. So we know that this is a difficult time for families. We're in it too, and we understand it's hard, especially for our children who have disabilities. Kathy, what are some words of wisdom or advice you might tell parents as they're trying to navigate this school year?
I've said some of them already, but I'll repeat them. Please give distance learning a chance. Okay. I am pretty sure it's going to work better than it did in the spring. Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely. Nothing's perfect. Even brick and mortar school is not perfect, but please give it a chance. It'll be different. This is going to be a tough year. Okay. We're going to have balancing the academic. Do I keep my kids safe or do I send them back to school because academics are better? It's going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. You are the expert on your child. You will know what is best. There might have to be some compromise. Please, please remember, this is a national emergency. And I was on a call yesterday. We're the Parent Training Information Center for the state of Arizona. So every state has at least one of us. Some states have more. I was on a call with all of them yesterday. Every single state in the country has the exact same issues we have in Arizona. Okay. This is not an Arizona thing. This is not a Maricopa County thing. This is everywhere. So please remember it's an emergency. Please remember that everybody, including you, are doing the best that you can. But none of us have ever been here before. So we have to figure it out as we go along. And that may not be the smoothest thing that needs to happen. So if you need help with the platform, if you need help with something else, please reach out and ask. Please do whatever you can to continue to work as a team. Please do what you can to um, keep emotions intact and be appropriate. I know we're all frustrated being in our houses. We're all frustrated that our outlets, whether it was the gym or the movie theater, or sports, or whatever your thing was, right, is not available. I get all that, but do what you can. Another quick program I'm going to talk about of ours very, very quickly is you can call us and we can give you a parent-to-parent match, meaning that we can pair you up with an experienced parent that we've trained, and they can call you every other week for a couple of months and talk about some of the issues that you're having. So we provide that. And I know that all the medical people out there are saying, oh yeah, wash your hands and social distance and wear a mask. That's physical. I'm going to ask you to take care of yourself mentally and do whatever it is that brings you joy, that lets you have fun, that takes you out of the stress of the whole thing. But remember, you can talk to your IEP team. You can do all of that. And I just wanted to end, ironically, I was on Facebook yesterday in one of my other groups, and they had this great little thing that I want to quickly read to you. But it was called 8 Things to Remember When Going Through Tough Times. And that kind of describes what we're doing now. So 1, everything can change and will change. 2, you have overcome challenges before. 3, it's a learning experience. 4, not getting what you want can be a blessing. 5, allow yourself to have fun. 6, being kind to yourself is the best medicine. 7, other people's negativity is not worth worrying about. And 8, there is always, always, always something to be thankful for. So I'm thankful that Brittany asked me to come on today and that we could share information with you. And we are here for you. Give us a call. We're happy to help. Thanks, Brittany.
And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end. I don't think I could do a better job. Thank you so much, Kathy. I know it was a really informative session today. It brought me a lot of comfort and information, and I'm sure our families listening in learned a lot as well and have some more hope as they face distance learning with their children. And just remember, if you need individual assistance for your child, please call Raising Special Kids. Our phone number is 602-242-4366. The referral link is on our chat, and we are here to support you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.